5:47 a.m., Arabian Sea. 17 high-speed boats armed with heavy machine guns and RPGs charging like a wolf pack toward the USNS Ranger, a U.S. Navy supply ship carrying fuel and critical munitions for a nearby carrier strike group. The pirates saw easy prey, slow, lightly defended, vulnerable. What they didn't see was the Virginia-class nuclear submarine tracking them from beneath the waves. They didn't know about the reconnaissance drones circling silently overhead, and they couldn't imagine that in 38 minutes, their base, their fleet, and their lives would be obliterated, not with warnings, but with cold precision and unprecedented coordination between sky, sea, and ocean depths. This is Operation Silent Hunter, and this is what happens when you attack the wrong ship. What you're about to witness is more than a counter-piracy operation. It's a demonstration of how modern American military power operates when the gloves come off lock silent, coordinated, and absolutely devastating. This is the story of how a single distress signal triggered a response that spanned 3 domains. Submarines beneath the waves, helicopters and drones in the sky, and special operations forces moving with surgical precision. A response so overwhelming that it didn't just stop an attack, it eliminated an entire pirate network in less than 40 minutes. From the first pirate hook thrown over the rail to the final Hellfire missile striking a coastal base, you'll see every calculated move of Operation Silent Hunter, the mission that reminded the world why no one attacks American supply lines and lives to brag about it. Subscribe now, because this is naval warfare at its most ruthless and most effective. 5:47 a.m., July 6, 2025. The Arabian Sea was still shrouded in pre-dawn darkness, the water flat and gray like polished steel. The USNS Ranger, a supply ship serving the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet, glided silently through thin morning mist, perfectly disguised as an aging commercial freighter. Her paint was deliberately weathered, her registry number faded and unremarkable. Even her silhouette had been modified slightly to resemble the thousands of merchant vessels that transit these waters every year. On deck, only 9 armed sailors stood watch, a skeletal security detail that looked insufficient for protecting anything valuable. The rest were technicians, mechanics, and civilian mariners under contract to Military Sealift Command. None of them anticipated what was coming in the next 3 minutes. But beneath that weathered gray hull and deliberately aged appearance, the Ranger carried a cargo that was anything but ordinary. 180,000 gallons of JP-5 jet fuel, enough to keep a carrier air wing flying for days. Precision-guided munitions, missiles and bombs for FA-18 Super Hornets, critical spare parts, components that couldn't be sourced anywhere else in the region, and thermal detonators, sensitive ordnance that, if detonated, would create an explosion visible from space. This ship was the invisible lifeline of a carrier strike group operating 132 nautical miles to the northeast. The USS George H.W. Bush and her escorts depended on vessels like the Ranger to sustain extended combat operations far from home ports. And someone had noticed. Someone had been watching the supply routes, tracking patterns, identifying the vessels that looked vulnerable but carried the most value. At exactly 5:48 a.m., the Ranger's surface search radar detected an anomaly, multiple small contacts accelerating rapidly from the northeast. But before the watch officer could even reach for the alarm, white wakes appeared through the morning mist from 3 directions simultaneously. 17 high-speed boats with powerful outboard engines materialized like hungry sharks emerging from deep water. Each boat carried 6 to 8 armed men, a total strike force of over 120 Somali pirates equipped with PKM 7.62mm machine guns on bow mounts, AK-47, and Type 56 assault rifles by the dozen, at least 12 RPG-7 launchers with armor-piercing warheads, grappling hooks and boarding ladders for ship assault. And something more concerning. Military-style coordination that suggested training and planning, they surged forward at over 45 knots. Black and red striped flags snapping in the wind, some boats blaring what sounded like war chants through portable speakers. Psychological warfare meant to terrify and intimidate. Within 90 seconds, the first 2 boats closed on the Ranger's port side, their crews expert at maritime assault from years of practice. Grappling hooks shot over the rail, their weighted heads catching on deck fittings and stanchions. Boarding ladders followed immediately, the pirates swarming up the ship's side like organized infantry. Weapons ready, the Ranger's small security team tried to respond, but they were outnumbered 5 to 1, and caught completely off guard. The first crewman, Navy Seaman Marcus Chen, 24 years old from San Diego, was shot while trying to seal the fuel compartment emergency hatches. The round hit him in the shoulder, spinning him around and dropping him to the deck in a spreading pool of blood. The second casualty was seaman apprentice David Rodriguez, just 19 years old, who was hit defending the auxiliary bridge. The bullet struck him in the chest, and he went down hard, his radio still clutched in his hand, the mic keyed and transmitting his last gasping breaths. Within 5 minutes of the first contact, the pirates had seized control of the main deck, the bridge, and were forcing the surviving crew into the midship cabin at gunpoint. Blood pooled on the deck, mixing with seawater and oil. Survivors were bound with the ship's own mooring lines, hands behind backs, forced to kneel. One pirate, apparently the leader, based on his position and the deference others showed him, stood on the bridge wing, waving an RPG launcher like a scepter of conquest. He shouted, in heavily accented but understandable English, "This ship belongs to us now. You tell your Navy, $10 million American or we blow everything to hell. You have 6 hours." The other pirates laughed, already imagining their share of the ransom. 10 million split among 120 men was life-changing money in Somalia. Enough to buy land, houses, security, enough to become powerful men in their coastal villages. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly have known, was that one man had avoided capture, Lieutenant Commander Carson Hayes, 47 years old, a Navy Reserve officer assigned to the Ranger as logistics coordinator between deployments. An Afghanistan veteran who'd seen combat in Kandahar and Helmand Province, a man who knew that sometimes the difference between survival and death comes down to the first 3 seconds of a crisis. Before the pirates could locate him, Hayes had slipped into a third-level technical compartment, an equipment room that most of the crew didn't even know existed. His hands moved with practiced precision across what looked like an ordinary environmental control panel. But when he tapped a specific sequence, 7 deliberate taps in a coded pattern, a hidden LED blinked green once, then went dark. The panel had just transmitted a burst signal through an encrypted underwater acoustic array. The Silent Hunter protocol was activated. Only 3 people in the entire 5th Fleet knew this system existed: the programmer who designed it, the admiral who authorized it, and the submarine commander who was waiting to receive it. And that commander was 22 nautical miles away, deep underwater, operating in complete silence. 22 nautical miles southeast of the Ranger, at a depth of 180 meters, the ocean was completely black. No light penetrated this far down. No sound except the distant biological clicks of marine life. Just cold, dark, crushing pressure that would kill an unprotected human in seconds. But the USS Colorado, a Virginia-class attack submarine with hull number SSN 788, moved through that darkness like a predator, perfectly adapted to its environment. Inside the control room, illuminated only by red combat lighting and the soft glow of tactical displays, 30 crew members maintained absolute quiet. In a submarine, noise discipline isn't just procedure, it's survival. Every unnecessary sound could give away their position to hostile forces. The Colorado had been shadowing the Ranger for 3 days, part of a classified program called Guardian Angel, submarine escorts for high-value logistics vessels operating in piracy-prone waters. The convoy didn't know they were being protected. The carrier strike group didn't advertise the submarine's position, and the pirates definitely had no idea they were being hunted from below. At 5:49 a.m., the submarine's underwater acoustic sensor array picked up something unusual. A short-duration laser pulse transmitted through the water on a frequency that no commercial vessel had any reason to use. The sonar technician's head snapped up. "Con, sonar. We have a burst transmission on the emergency channel. Authenticate. Authenticating. It's the Silent Hunter code. The Ranger has been compromised." Commander Elena Vasquez, the Colorado's commanding officer, leaned forward in her chair, her voice calm but carrying absolute authority. "Confirm signal. Bring us to periscope depth. Communications. Prepare to transmit flash traffic to the strike group. Weapons. Ready tubes 1 and 2 for surveillance drone launch. And someone get me a visual on that supply ship." The submarine began rising slowly, the ballast control team making minute adjustments to maintain stealth even as they ascended. At 5:51 a.m., the Colorado reached periscope depth, 20 meters below the surface, just deep enough to avoid visual detection, but shallow enough to extend sensors. Through the periscope, Commander Vasquez could see what the acoustic arrays had already told her. The Ranger was surrounded by small boats, black smoke coming from somewhere on deck, and obvious signs of hostile boarding. "Con, sonar. I count 17. Repeat, 1 to 7. Small craft surrounding the supply vessel. Acoustic signatures match high-speed skiffs with outboard engines. This is a coordinated assault." Vasquez made her decision in seconds. "Launch the Ravens. I want eyes on that deck. And get me a tactical picture of everything within 20 miles. Two vertical launch tubes on the submarine's foredeck opened silently, the hatches barely breaking the surface. From each tube, a small reconnaissance drone emerged. Raven-class UAVs designed specifically for maritime operations. They were tiny, wingspan of just 4 feet, and constructed from composites that made them nearly invisible to radar. Their electric motors were whisper quiet, and they could loiter for 90 minutes on a single battery charge. Within 30 seconds of launch, both Ravens were airborne and transmitting high-definition video back to the Colorado. The footage was damning. Pirates on the Ranger's deck, crew members bound and guarded, weapons everywhere, and what looked like bodies lying motionless near the bridge. Contact the strike group. Vasquez ordered. Flash traffic. Supply vessel Ranger is under hostile control. Pirate force estimated 120 combatants in 17 boats. American casualties confirmed. Request immediate tactical response and medical support. Colorado is weapons-free and ready to engage. The radio operator's fingers flew across the encrypted communication system. The message compressed and transmitted in a microsecond burst that enemy forces would never detect. On the USS George H.W. Bush, 132 nautical miles away, that message arrived at the Carrier Intelligence Center with the priority code that meant everything else stopped. Admiral on deck. Rear Admiral Marcus Holland strode into the CIC, reading the flash message on a tablet as he walked. His expression was grim but unsurprised. Piracy had been escalating in this region for months, and everyone knew a major incident was inevitable. Status of the Ranger? Under hostile control, sir. Colorado reports 17 pirate boats, estimated 120 hostiles, at least 2 American casualties. The captain activated Silent Hunter protocol before being captured. Holland nodded slowly. The captain's courage had just saved everyone's lives by ensuring the Navy knew exactly what was happening. Alert SEAL Team 6, launch helicopter package immediately. I want that ship retaken within 30 minutes. Colorado is authorized to engage pirate vessels at her discretion. And get me strike aircraft on standby. If these pirates have a shore base, I want it gone by breakfast. Aye aye, sir. The enormous carrier deck erupted into controlled chaos as 3 MH-60S Seahawk helicopters were prepared for immediate launch. In the squadron ready room, members of SEAL Team 6 were already donning assault gear, checking weapons, reviewing blueprints of the Ranger's deck layout. The assault commander, Lieutenant Michael Turner, received his orders directly from the Admiral. This is Operation Silent Hunter. The captured ship is carrying thermal reactive compounds. Any mistake could create an explosion that would be visible from orbit and kill everyone within 2 nautical miles. We cannot allow this vessel to remain in hostile hands. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Eliminate all hostile forces. Retake the ship. No negotiations. Turner nodded grimly. Understood, sir. We'll bring them home. At 6:05 a.m., the first Seahawk lifted off from the carrier deck, its rotors cutting through dawn light. 2 more followed in formation, each carrying 10 combat-ready SEALs equipped with suppressed HK-416 rifles for close-quarters combat, flashbang and stun grenades for room clearing, breaching charges for locked compartments, trauma medical kits for treating casualties, and most importantly, cold determination to end this situation decisively. The helicopters flew low and fast, their pilots using terrain masking techniques to avoid detection, guided by GPS coordinates and real-time video from the Ravens still circling overhead. From the other direction, the USS Colorado was preparing her own contribution to the assault. Weapons, Con. Launch Echo Lima package. Full spectrum jamming. I want their communications blind before our people arrive. Echo Lima package. Aye. Launching now. Another tube opened on the submarine's deck, this time releasing something that looked like a torpedo, but was actually an electronic warfare drone, codenamed Ghost Pike. The device rose to just below the surface and began drifting north at 2 knots while broadcasting jamming signals across satellite, cellular, and radio frequencies. Any pirate trying to use communications would find only static. At the same time, Ghost Pike transmitted a false acoustic signature that mimicked a carrier's engine noise, deception meant to draw attention away from the actual assault. On the Ranger, pirates were beginning to notice anomalies. Satellite phones weren't connecting, radios produced only white noise. GPS screens showed error messages. Something's wrong! One pirate leader shouted in Somali, his voice carrying an edge of panic. The Americans are doing something. They're jamming us. But it was already too late. The trap wasn't just closing, it had already closed. They just didn't know it yet. At 6:12 a.m., 3 MH-60S Seahawks appeared from the blazing sunrise like avenging angels, flying just 50 feet above the wave tops to avoid early detection. The pirates on the Ranger's deck had maybe 3 seconds of warning, the sound of rotors, growing rapidly louder, before the helicopters were directly overhead. No flashing lights, no warning sirens, no chance to respond. Fast ropes deployed from the side doors, and 28 Navy SEALs descended onto the deck like they were stepping out of darkness itself. Smooth, practiced, faster than seemed humanly possible. Team Alpha hit the deck near the bridge and immediately moved to secure the corridor behind it. Two pirates standing guard barely had time to raise their weapons before taking precision shots to the chest from suppressed rifles. The sound was minimal, drowned out by helicopter noise and the confusion of the moment. Team Bravo stormed the midship cabin where hostages were being held. The door was locked from the inside, so they didn't bother with keys. A breaching charge blew the door off its hinges in a shower of splinters. Before the smoke cleared, a flashbang grenade rolled into the cabin. The concussion was devastating in the enclosed space. 3 pirate guards dropped instantly, blood streaming from their noses and ears from the overpressure. The 4th tried to raise his AK-47 but took 2 rounds center mass from the first SEAL through the door. The hostages, 12 crew members bound and terrified, didn't even know what was happening until American voices were shouting, "US Navy! US Navy! Stay down! Don't move!" Team Charlie didn't board the Ranger at all. They fast roped directly onto one of the larger pirate boats tied alongside, a 30-foot skiff with a mounted PKM machine gun and fuel drums that suggested it was preparing to leave with looted cargo. The 5 pirates on that boat never stood a chance. The SEALs came down on top of them, literally, boots and bodies landing in a controlled avalanche of force. Within 3 minutes of the assault beginning, 9 pirates were dead, 14 were wounded or captured, 11 more had jumped overboard, preferring to take their chances in the water. And the Ranger's crew was secured and being evaluated for injuries. But the operation wasn't over. In fact, the most devastating part was just beginning. At 25,000 feet above the Arabian Sea, an MQ-9 Reaper drone had been loitering on station for the past hour, its sensors painting a complete picture of the battlespace below. The Reaper had watched the pirate assault unfold. It had tracked every boat, and most importantly, it had identified where those boats had come from. 16 kilometers inland from the coast, tucked into a rocky cove sheltered by cliffs, was the pirate base, a sprawling complex of tents, fuel storage tanks, a communications tower bristling with antennas, weapons caches, and what appeared to be a headquarters building constructed from shipping containers. Intelligence had been watching this location for weeks, building a target package, waiting for the right moment to strike. That moment had arrived. At 6:17 a.m., the Reaper received its execute order. The pilot, sitting in an air-conditioned control station in Nevada, 7,000 miles away, moved his cursor across a screen and designated 3 targets. Target 1, the communications tower. Target 2, the fuel depot. Target 3, the weapons cache. Control, Reaper 27. I have 3 targets designated and locked. Request clearance hot. Reaper 27, you are cleared hot. Engage at will. The pilot's hand moved to his weapon release panel. Under the Reaper's wings hung 2 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles and 1 GBU, 12 paveway laser-guided bomb. Rifle, the call sign for missile launch. The first Hellfire dropped away from the wing pylon, its rocket motor igniting a second later. The missile accelerated to supersonic speed and dove toward the coastal base 16 kilometers away. Impact time, 14 seconds. Through the Reaper's cameras, high-definition video being recorded for after-action analysis, the operators watched the missile's flight path, a white smoke trail arcing down toward the target. At 6 hours 17 minutes and 42 seconds, the Hellfire struck the communications tower. The explosion was surgical, but devastating. The tower's base disintegrated, and the entire structure collapsed in on itself, taking with it the pirate network's ability to coordinate operations or call for reinforcement. Good hit. Target 1 destroyed. Engaging Target 2. The pilot's hands moved again, designating the fuel depot, several large storage tanks that intelligence estimated held 15,000 gallons of diesel and gasoline. Rifle. The GBU-12, a 500-pound laser-guided bomb, released from the Reaper's center hardpoint. Unlike the Hellfire, this wasn't rocket-propelled. It simply fell, guidance fins making micro-adjustments to keep the laser spot centered in its seeker. At 6 hours, 18 minutes and 8 seconds, the bomb pierced through the fuel depot's corrugated metal roof. The explosion was massive, far larger than the bomb alone would have created. The fuel ignited in a secondary blast that sent a fireball 200 feet into the air, the shockwave flattening tents and structures in a 100-meter radius. Pirates who'd been sleeping in barracks woke to find themselves on fire or trapped under collapsed structures. Those who made it outside found no shelter, No cover, just open ground and a Reaper still circling overhead. Target 2 destroyed. Secondaries confirm fuel ignition. Engaging. Target 3. The final Hellfire launched, targeting the weapons cache, a hardened structure where intelligence believed the pirates stored their RPGs, ammunition, and possibly explosives. At 6 hours, 19 minutes and 1 seconds, the missile found its mark. This explosion made the fuel depot look small. The weapons cache detonated in a brilliant white flash that briefly overloaded the Reaper's cameras. The blast wave was visible on satellite imagery, and the noise was heard in villages 10 miles away. When the smoke cleared, there was simply nothing left where the cache had been: a crater, burning debris scattered across hundreds of meters, and silence. The Somali coast, which minutes ago had been a bustling pirate stronghold, was now a smoking ruin, destroyed so thoroughly that identifying bodies would be nearly impossible. All targets destroyed. Reaper 27 is Winchester, RTB. Winchester. The code word meaning all weapons expended. The drone turned back toward its operating base in Djibouti. At 6:26 a.m., the Ranger was fully secured. Lieutenant Turner entered the bridge, confirming system control and assessing damage. Captain Hayes, who'd activated the Silent Hunter protocol, was pulled from the technical compartment with a gash on his forehead from where he'd hit a bulkhead during the initial pirate assault. But when he saw the American flag still flying at the stern, he simply nodded, unable to speak past the emotion in his throat. The cost had been steep. 2 American sailors dead, 5 wounded, 17 pirates killed in the assault, 19 captured. But the ship was saved. The cargo was intact. And the mission continued. Or so everyone thought. At 6:29 a.m., fresh intelligence arrived at the carrier strike group from satellite reconnaissance. A KH-12 keyhole satellite had detected 3 more high-speed boats departing from a small bay called Mabasa, 17 nautical miles south of the first pirate base. But these weren't random skiffs. They were being escorted by a large converted fishing trawler, a mothership that intelligence had been tracking for weeks. This vessel, nearly 100 feet long with reinforced hull plating, satellite communications, and what appeared to be defensive weapons, was the command and control node for the entire pirate network in this region. Taking out the shore base had been important, but destroying the mothership would decapitate the entire organization. The order came at 6:33 a.m. No boat leaves this sea. Action window, 11 minutes. The USS Colorado, now submerged at 70 meters and positioned perfectly for an intercept, received the execute order. Weapons, con, load tubes 3 and 4. Target, surface contact, designated, Hotel Mike. Prepare for snapshot engagement. Weapons I. Tubes 3 and 4 ready. We have firing solution on Hotel Mike. 2 Mach 48 ADCAP torpedoes were loaded and ready. Weapons originally designed to sink Soviet submarines but equally devastating against surface targets. Meanwhile, 15,000 feet above, 2F, A-18E, Super Hornets from the carrier's strike fighter squadron had been launched and were orbiting in radar silent mode, waiting for their turn. At 6:36 a.m., the Colorado fired. Fire 3, Fire 4. 2 torpedoes left their tubes with a hiss of compressed air and immediately went active, their sonar seekers pinging the target while they accelerated to 55 knots, faster than any surface vessel could hope to evade. On the mothership's deck, men smoked cigarettes and checked weapons, completely unaware they had less than 40 seconds to live. At 6 hours 39 minutes and 14 seconds, the first torpedo struck the ship's starboard side, 6 feet below the waterline. The 650-pound warhead detonated with a muffled WHUMP that sent a water column 30 meters high. The ship lurched violently, men thrown to the deck. 3 seconds later, before anyone could even comprehend what was happening, the second torpedo hit the engine room. The explosion tore a massive hole in the hull. Lights went out. Machinery screamed and tore apart. The entire stern section twisted and began to sink. Men jumped overboard. But in these waters, that was just choosing a slower death. Above them, the FA-18 seconds rolled into their attack runs. Rhino 2-1, cleared hot. Target bearing 045. 2 GBU-54 LJ-DAM bombs, GPS, laser-guided munitions, released from the Super Hornet's wing pylons. At 6 hours 40 minutes and 2 seconds, both bombs hit the mothership's superstructure where communications and command facilities were located. The blast was surgical. Not massive, but precisely placed to destroy electronics, kill leadership, and ensure this vessel could never coordinate another attack. A follow-up Hellfire missile from one of the Seahawks still on station finished the deck where a pirate had been trying to man a heavy machine gun. The mothership was engulfed in flames, listing hard to port, taking on water from multiple hull breaches. Within 2 minutes, she was gone, sunk in 200 feet of water with all hands. The 3 escort skiffs tried to flee, but they'd been marked by the Reaper. Targets fleeing. Engaging. AGM-114 Hellfires from the Super Hornets destroyed 2 of them in quick succession. The third was obliterated by 20mm cannon fire from an escorting Seahawk, exploding less than 2 nautical miles from where it had started. No survivors. No rescue attempts. No prisoners. In total, 27 people eliminated in under 11 minutes. 14 gunmen, 7 communications technicians, and 6 regional pirate commanders who'd been coordinating operations across 200 miles of coastline. The USS Colorado remained hidden in the black water, silent as death itself. On the carrier, the command center stayed in red light mode. No cheers, no applause, just a series of calm confirmations. Mothership destroyed. All targets eliminated. Operation concluded. At 6:47 a.m., the Arabian Sea returned to an eerie calm. The water drifted quietly, carrying charred debris and oil slicks from the sunken wrecks. In the distance, the American flag fluttered on the recovered supply ship, a wordless declaration that these waters were no longer contested. By 6:59 a.m., the sun had climbed above the horizon, casting golden light across the sea like a benediction. But in that seemingly peaceful dawn, black smoke still rose from 2 locations: the destroyed shore base and the waters where the mothership had gone down 18 minutes earlier. No alarms from the pirate side, no radio chatter, no response, just dead silence. On the USS George H.W. Bush's flag bridge, Rear Admiral Marcus Holland stood before the tactical screens, watching UAV footage of the aftermath. A young intelligence officer approached. "Sir, Mombasa target is non-operational. No heat signatures detected. Area is now designated a white zone." White zone, military terminology for an area so thoroughly destroyed that it posed no further threat. No one clapped, no one celebrated. This wasn't a cinematic victory. It was clinical, emotionless, necessary punishment. On international maritime channels, reports began filtering through. A commercial satellite image showed the pirate base reduced to ash and scorched earth. A Singapore shipping firm sent an urgent alert. Unidentified small vessel activity off Somalia has dropped to 0 in the last 4 hours, first time in 7 months. Ports from Oman to Kenya received reduced piracy risk alerts. A London maritime insurance company began adjusting risk premiums for ships crossing the Gulf of Aden downward for the first time in years. But on the Somali coast, no news was needed. Everyone knew. Radio posts went silent. Wooden docks were abandoned. Children stopped running to the shore. Every remaining skiff, legal or illegal, was pulled ashore and covered with tarps, as if hiding from the sky's judgment. The silence lingered, oppressive and total, as if the sun had risen on a sea stripped of all sound. And in that silence, the message traveled farthest. At noon Eastern Time, a brief statement from U.S. Central Command reached global media. When armed groups attack the logistical infrastructure of the United States Navy, our response is not a choice, it's instinct. We will not negotiate on security. No warnings, no delays. No mercy for those who threaten American lives and American interests. It wasn't a declaration of war, it was a statement of sovereignty over every gallon of fuel, every munition, every link in the supply chain that keeps American military power operational worldwide. The message was clear. Target that supply chain, and you're not inviting negotiation or proportional response. You're opening the door to your own destruction. That afternoon, a SEAL from the assault team was asked by a reporter, "Do you think they'll try again?" He looked at the sea and replied, not arrogantly, but factually, "They'll have nothing to come back with. We didn't just stop an attack, we erased their capability to ever mount one again." And he was right. In the weeks following Operation Silent Hunter, piracy attempts in the Arabian Sea dropped 87%. Several pirate leaders were arrested by Somali authorities suddenly willing to cooperate. Weapons trafficking networks supplying the pirates collapsed, and the mothership's destruction removed the coordination hub that had enabled large-scale operations. The operation cost the U.S. Navy approximately 40 minutes of operational time and a few $1 million in ammunition. It saved countless lives, protected critical logistics, and established deterrence that would last for years. The story of Operation Silent Hunter is more than military tactics. It reflects something deeper about preparation, discipline, and decisive action. In daily life, we may not face torpedoes or Hellfire missiles, but we're constantly tested by crises, job loss, financial collapse, personal trauma, sudden disaster, Just as Lieutenant Commander Hayes quietly activated the Silent Hunter protocol with 7 deliberate taps, survival often comes from silent preparation, not loud demands or panicked reactions. The U.S. Navy didn't need to boast about its strength. Technology, training, and coordination between SEALs, submarines, drones, and strike aircraft spoke instead. The lesson is universal. Invest in readiness. Know where your emergency protocols are and how to activate them in the first 3 seconds of crisis. Move with discipline. Panic kills more people than the actual threat. Cover your sectors. The Colorado was shadowing the Ranger for days before the attack. Protection often works best when it's invisible. Let actions speak. The Navy didn't warn the pirates. They didn't negotiate. They simply executed with overwhelming force. And perhaps most importantly, strength lies not in the noise you make, but in the silence others cannot ignore. The pirates made noise, war chants, threats, demands. The U.S. Navy made silence, and in that silence, delivered a message that will echo for a generation. Operation Silent Hunter reminds us that in the modern world, the most dangerous opponent isn't the one who threatens the loudest. It's the one who moves in silence, strikes with precision, and disappears before you even know you've been hit. 17 boats attacked an American supply ship. Within 38 minutes, those boats were destroyed, the pirates were dead or captured, and their entire support network was erased from existence. That's not luck. That's not overwhelming numbers. That's what happens when preparation meets opportunity, when discipline meets crisis, and when you dare to attack the wrong target on the wrong day. If this story resonates with you, if you believe in strategy over noise, in preparation over reaction, in silent strength over loud threats, hit that subscribe button and join our community. We bring you stories that don't make headlines but should. Stories of how America's military operates when no one's watching. Stories of professionals doing impossible things with precision and discipline. Drop a comment. What impressed you most about this operation? The submarine coordination? The SEAL assault? Or the complete destruction of the pirate network? And let us know what other operations you want us to analyze with this level of detail. Thanks for watching. Remember, the strongest forces operate in silence. And silence, as these pirates learned, can be the loudest sound you never hear. Until next time, stay prepared, stay disciplined, and stay silent when it matters most.